Wonderful. Well, good morning to you. My name's Jim, the vicar here. Very warm welcome to you if this is your first time, either in the building or online as well. And the story we've just heard from the Old Testament is a great story, actually, about healing and how God heals. And it's a story about how God wants to work even outside of the Israel nation, beyond his people, that his good news is for the whole world. There's loads of stuff in there. But this morning, there's just one small bit of that passage that I want us to concentrate on. And that's because we're in the middle of a series looking at how we raise rising generations. How, as a church, can we put a real emphasis on our work with children and young people? Not in the traditional sense necessarily of doing Sunday school, but raising up our children and our young people. And hopefully, we've been asking you as a church over this month of August just to be really praying and interceding for our children and our young people. And it's not a case of let's pray for them and then adults will get on with their own thing. But what we've been trying to say through the whole series is that we need, as a church, our children and our young people right at the heart of our church, speaking in to the life of the church. And if we haven't got that, we miss out and ultimately we'll die out as a church. And this morning, we just want to talk about passing on or inviting or evangelism or whatever word you want to use. And verse 3 in this passage, 2 Kings 5, says this. This is the little maid servant. I don't know if you even picked up on her in the story. A little maid servant says, "If only my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy." Now, I don't know when I even just said the word evangelism then, you came out in a cold sweat or you instantly turned off. I don't know if you're kind of in your schools, whether you find it easy to talk about your faith. But what are some of the reasons that we maybe find it hard to talk about our faith? Or maybe what are some of the excuses that we make for not sharing our faith or inviting someone or offering to pray with someone? Maybe some of them we vocalize, maybe some are in our heads. But what are some of the reasons? You're going to have to wake up and contribute at this point. Otherwise, it's going to be a long morning. So I'll just shout out some of the reasons, some of the excuses, some of the doubts we have when we think about sharing or talking about our faith. Yeah, worried about what people might think, exactly. Yeah, you might lose your friends, become unpopular. Any others? Persecution. Yeah, people be horrible to you because of it. Let's have a couple more. Standing out. Standing out as different. Any others? Let's have one from this side of the room. It's been very quiet. People being offended at what we share. Brilliant. We have all kinds of reasons or excuses. Now, if you imagine in this jar are some tablets, some pills that will cure this disease, will cure a disease that we have so far been unable to. Sorry, Erin. Is that easy on the camera for you? Imagine it here, like there's an illness that you've all got, and I have the cure here. Now, if I made the same excuses about giving you one of these pills or sharing one of these pills with you, you'd think it was ridiculous. Well, you're ill. I'm not going to share one of these pills because you might be offended. Or I've got one of these pills that will cure you. I'm not going to share it because I'm worried that actually you won't like me if I do. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But I think that's the point. Similarly, how many of you have been watching a good box set on Netflix recently? One of you. Really? What are the rest of you doing? It's been lockdown. Jesse, what have you been watching? Are you allowed to say? Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Any Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans? Yeah, thank you. Any other box sets that people are enjoying at the moment? Moji? The what? The Undoing. Not heard of that one. Very good. Very good. And Flick, what are you watching at the moment? What do you like watching on Netflix? What have we been watching on iPlayer? She's really embarrassed to share it. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Been going back old school, watching that. Now, if you watch a good box set and you enjoy it, I mean, we have this conversation loads in the office, you recommend it to someone. You share it with someone. You just want to share it because you've enjoyed it. You recommend it to them. Now, when you recommend it to them, you don't think, oh, gosh, what am I going to say? Let me work out beforehand what I'm going to say and all the possible answers that they might give and questions they... You just share it. You just recommend it because it's something you've enjoyed and you want to share. And yet somehow when it comes to sharing our faith, we sort of clam up, or we don't know what to say, or we overthink it. And it goes beyond just being a thing which is a very natural recommendation about something that we enjoy, about a relationship we have, into something that we kind of freeze up and panic over a bit. And so this example of a small girl, I think, can help us to know how to share faith. If only my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy. This girl had been captured. She was a slave in a foreign land, in a foreign household. She'd been, as Israel had been invaded, they'd captured her and they'd taken her back to this foreign land. She'd been made to be a servant, a slave to Naaman and his wife. She had little influence. She had little voice. And yet she spoke out with simplicity, matter of fact, and full of faith. And I just want to look at three reasons, three things that stirred her to speak out. Now, like I said, this girl had been captured and she'd been living with Naaman and his wife. And Naaman had this horrendous skin condition called leprosy. Luckily, these days it's curable. It's still not nice at all. But in those days, it was like, that was it. It was like the worst thing. You were unclean. You were cast out. There was no cure. It was one of the worst diseases you could get. And yet this girl presumably had compassion on him. That's our first C. She had compassion on him. She was moved by his needs. She saw what was wrong with him. She saw the plight he was in, and she was moved with compassion because of his needs. Now, often, kind of through the Bible and kind of writings that have come since, there's often this link kind of drawn between leprosy, because of the kind of disease it was, and kind of sin, our sinful, humanity's sinful condition on the other hand. And whether it's physical healing that we see people need, or whether it's just like the reality is that people need Jesus. People without Jesus are not in the best place they can be in their lives. And people without Jesus ultimately aren't going to end up where we want them to end up. And have we got compassion about that? Do we see their needs? And are we stirred by compassion to want to share the answer that we've found? Or is faith just a very individual, private thing that it's not really there to share? If we're stirred by the needs of people around us, we should have compassion. And if we haven't got compassion for the people around us, then I think we probably just need to again look at our relationship with Jesus and ask him again to fill us with his Spirit. She had compassion, and so she spoke out. Secondly, this is our second C, she had a confidence in who God was. She knew that God was constant in the change. As she headed towards Damascus, having been captured, her life was changed forever. Her familiarity was gone, the worship was gone, all things ahead were strange and new. And yet clearly she had a confidence that God never changed. And again, for us, maybe you're about to go into a new school, or certainly a new school year. Maybe you're about to start uni. Maybe there's another change coming up. But for all of us, as we head into this kind of world sort of post-COVID, it's a different world. Have we got a confidence that the God of yesterday who is faithful is the God who will be faithful tomorrow? Because if we have, then we will want to share and speak out. We can be confident in God. So first of all, her first C, she had compassion. Her second C was brilliant. Thirdly, she had courage to play her part. Courage is trusting God even when my doubts and my fears want to be in charge. Even though she was in a different land, she knew that God had performed through his prophets in the past. She knew and believed there was one who could help her. And so the day came when she had the courage and the boldness to speak up. Just think about her position, a little slave girl in this massive household. She had absolutely no right. It might even have threatened her position or even her life. And yet she had the courage to speak out at the right moment. You know, if it wasn't for Jesus quoting this incident in Luke, the beginning of Luke's gospel, we'd never even know about her. The passage doesn't mention her name. It's Elisha who goes on and does all the big boy stuff and kind of heals and gets the glory and gets his name up in lights. This little girl gets nothing. And yet Jesus, when he's in the temple preaching at the beginning of his ministry, doesn't talk just about Elisha, but mentions this incident with the girl. She just had the courage to play one small part, one sentence, and yet it's set in chain, these events. It's kind of a bit like this sort of domino rally. I was going to set up a massive domino rally and film it, but I didn't have any dominoes, and I didn't have a camera. So you'll have to make do with Jenga blocks. But it's kind of like this, that all it needs, you get the idea, is for one of us just to play our part. Just one sentence, and it has a knock-on effect. Now, if you imagine our children, first of all, our children, I think, have such an opportunity. Like, they know far more people, I think, than adults. They're in school, they're in homes, they're in clubs. How are we equipping our children and our young people to say those one sentences, to have compassion, to have confidence, to have courage? Because you see, this child here can say a small word about church or about Jesus or offer to pray for someone, and that can affect their friend who might tell their friend. And so what happens is this child over here ends up hearing about Jesus, and it's because of this child over here. But this child hasn't even met this child. And then imagine if that one child just speaks to two children, who then speak to two children each, who then speak to two children each. And you can see that very quickly, it's not just a straight line, but it fans out. It goes from addition to multiplication. And our children have the power to do that. And so how are we equipping them and encouraging them? But also, obviously, it's not just for children. It's about us doing that as well. You see, it's easy to dismiss a little statement or a little action or even a little girl as a small thing that makes no difference. But that one girl's small phrase, that small act of compassion, that small act of confidence, that small act of courage made a massive difference to someone in the Roman army who was highly influential. Just going to try one more thing. Might not work. Let's give it a go. Now, just coming back to this idea of telling people about Jesus, and we get frightened about it. And yes, we know we need compassion, but often we don't feel very compassionate. Yes, we know we need confidence, but often we don't feel very confident. Yes, we know we need courage, but often we don't feel very bold. And so if we can summon up all those three things in and of ourselves, we might just drop a couple of words into the world around us. We might just mention awkwardly that we went to church yesterday. We might say, if you're not doing anything on Wednesday, would you like to come to Alpha? We might invite someone to a kids group. And really, it makes not a lot of difference. You can see a bit of the food colouring in there, but it doesn't make a lot of difference. Now, when Jesus gave us the Great Commission, he said, go into all the world and tell people about me. And if we get stuck at that point, we kind of miss the point of the Great Commission. I really should have mixed this beforehand. Bear with. What does Jesus say in the Great Commission after that? He says, go into all the world and tell people about me. What does he promise after that? I will be with you always, even to the very end of the age. Kind of worked. Don't patronize me, Andrew. The point is, so often when it comes to evangelism or telling people about Jesus, we clam up because we try and do it in our own strength. Jesus promises that he is with us always. That's why I said if we haven't got compassion, we need more of the Holy Spirit to know his compassion for us. That's why I say if we haven't got confidence in God, we need to experience him more. And that's why I say if we haven't got courage in him, actually, we need to step out and trust him in his word. And so we are entering a new situation, a new world, if you like. Are we going to step up to that challenge? Jesus doesn't say, if you want to go into all the world. He says, go into all the world. And we need to do it with compassion, with confidence, and with courage. And we can learn a lot from that little slave girl who simply said, if only my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy. What's that sentence sound like for you as you go into work tomorrow, as you see your friends tomorrow, as you go back to school in September? Amen.